Good afternoon, Frank Watkins. It is the 30th of August 2024. The All Ords finished at 83.16 today, up from last week's close 8249, so up 67 points. And once again, looking for new highs, looking for a breakout. It's been pretty interesting. At the start of the year, or late last year even, we were here at the 7-8 figure. We backed off, we rallied, we came back to that figure roughly, and again 7-8, or that's about 7.785, and we nearly got it again 7.846. But so this period here, very much sideways. People will tell you that it's been a bull market. Well, that to me is sideways, but fresh breakout, retraced below the break, fresh breakout, retraced again, and now we're having yet another crack at it. So what the previous high was about 8374, so 50 or 60 points from all-time record highs. Been a lot of talk about lowering interest rates and lower inflation during the week. I'll believe all that when I see it. I try not to anticipate reserve banks or any other bank for that matter. So I'm quite bullish again, but I'll just go through some stocks that we've been looking at recently and then do a quick scan. Asia sort of looking better, but we're still low, higher, a lower high, a lower low. We almost tried for a higher high, couldn't make it, so there's another lower high there. And down we come and fill this gap. So I don't really think much has changed with Asia. In fact, all of the ETFs, I think they just need time to make their move. BOQ, Bank of Queensland. We've been involved in this since roughly this break. We had a nervous moment or two. I think we're back on track, but I still think the best way to handle the banks and finance is with an ETF QFN financials. So this has really been one-way traffic for quite a while. I see no reason for that to suddenly discontinue. So QFN, I still think rather than buy a specific bank, I'd rather buy QFN and cover all of the banks. My little goldies, De Grey, still just struggling. Hasn't done anything really since the move over 2,500 in gold, but there's worse stocks out there. Elders, still trying to get up and fill a gap that it left back here. So really we've gone sideways here, rallied, and now we're doing sideways all over again. But Elders still looking okay. HLS, this is one I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Had a good break last week, backed off this week, and is now making another attempt at new highs. I think $1.70 would be a good break. So keep an eye on HLS. IDX, I think might be one that I haven't mentioned, but certainly I think there's good cause to look at that gap there and see where it takes us. And $2.60 you could argue is the break, and it did break here. It backed off. It's broken again. Closed at 260 today, high of 266. For safety's sake, the next entry really is probably about there, $2.70, 271. Nice rounding formation here. We'll need to wait and see. Tiny little dividend potentially of 2.2% fully franked, talking about potential divvies. YAL certainly rocked the boat. This was announcement of annual report, and they did not pay. They chose not to pay a dividend at all this year, and with a yield up here of 12.9%, it looks very tasty, but the lower the price of the stock goes, the greater the dividend yield will be, despite not paying a dividend. So you can't always believe and or rely on history. We received this 32.5% divvy back in March, and then nothing since. So fortunately, we've sold a bit on the way. Another one I kind of like the look of is Lend-Lease, and I think it's pretty obvious why I like the look of Lend-Lease. There's very small dividend on that. Not much franking, 33% franking, but breakout coming, and 736 to fill the gap, and we're trading at 676. So even for a gap fill, there's a bit in it. Another ETF, LPGD, had a fair old pullback. It's recovered a bit. I think today's price action just about puts us back on track and makes it look fairly promising. But again, got to get through that gap before, and these highs here, before we really get excited again about LPGD. NWH is performing for us. Interesting tick today. It sort of had a crack at new highs, but ended up with a red candle. So be a bit careful. There is still a gap down here, but NWH looking pretty good and has declared a dividend. I can't quite remember how much, but there's a dividend attached to that one and coming soon in September. Whoops. QUB. I just like the look of this trend. It just keeps going. 2.2% divvy yield, 100% franking, so there's a tiny bit in it probably. RMS, I haven't mentioned this for a while, but doing pretty well at the moment. And again, I think any mining stock that talks about a dividend, they must be doing something right. Keep an eye on RMS for a goldie. RRL, similar. Regis, it's starting a recovery, but to be absolutely certain, I think you'd need to take out this high up here at $1.90. Well, make it $2. But worth keeping an eye on. And then something that's treating us extremely well, Westpac. I can't remember seeing a bank run like that for a long time. Okay, a quick scan. I'm going to just look for big candles. Okay, AFG, what's that? Australian Finance Group. I suppose you could look at this as a high, higher low, higher high, higher low, looking for another higher high. We're showing dividend of 5.1, fully franked. Bring in 5 years. Okay, bring in 5 years on that, and I am not convinced. Absolutely not convinced, but there might be a quick little trade in there. AN3PI, I'm not sure. I think that's one of those bank, yeah, ANZ notes. So I take no notice of that. ASK, done a lot of work across this current level. Abacus Storage King. Well, you'd have to think that's just a license to print. People store things and pay you every month for putting their gear in a lock-up tin shed. Interesting business. What else can I say? Dividend yield 4.8. I'm going to go to the 5 years again. Yeah, could be a few bob in that one. Commonwealth Bank, that'll be another one of those notes where the bank's basically borrowing money, I think. CDP, very messy chart. Move on. CNB, Carnaby Resources, it might be a turnaround, but it'd be very early days to call that any sort of turnaround. A couple of good days volume there. Tiny gap up here at 74 cents, currently at 44. A bit of a rounding bottom potentially. Could be something in that, but I'd keep up tight stops. Dicky Data went dicky today. It's interesting. You have a quick look at that chart and the two big moves, bang and bang. The two big moves are down, so that's got a long way to go. ENR, this is another one of those. It's starting to round off. There's potentially, well, there is resistance there at 50 cents. Got to 49.5 today and closed at 49.5. There's still a gap here, but I think this is showing strength, and I don't think that gap is going to be filled for quite some time. So again, just keep an eye on that one. 451 million issued cap, so that's nice and tight. Big turnaround here on Fleet Partners, financials and consumer finance. Dividend yield, nothing. If you bring in more data, that's either an extraordinarily quick turnaround. It makes me a bit uneasy actually, but still hasn't really broken the downward trend. I'd avoid that one. That's a messy chart. That's messy. Big outside day, down day on big volume. I'd be very careful of that. Qantas, me think it amazing. Profits down 30% or something crazy, and away they go. There's a lot of things I could say about Qantas, but just looking at that chart, it's one of the reasons why I've never bought an airline stock. Despite the evidence and despite the breakout and despite the big volume, Qantas can go wherever it wants, and it will go with my blessing, but not my money. Robo. This is an ETF. Global Robotics. And again, a nice turnaround today, but I don't think it's turned around to go far. I'd still be watching that for quite a while. Servcorp, pretty messy up there. And if volatility is a sign of a top, well, you might have a top in place there. TGF, Tribeca Global Natural Resources. Yep. For me, it'd probably want to get above $1.60 before I got very interested in it. It's looking like it's got a lot of potential at the moment, but not enough potential again to get me investing. TPG from 460 to 490. That's a good move today, and again on big volume. Dividend yield, dividend yield 0.36. Fully franked. What does 1 year look like? Certainly recovery mode. 5 years. Yeah. Weekly. 2 years. We've got a wee gap up here at 525. We're at 496 at the moment. It's one of those ones, I think, we've got a long-term significant low here, high, higher low, higher high. We've really already had a breakout on that one. But from my point of view, I'll watch that for a day or two, but I tend to think there's better stocks out there at the moment. Okay, going to leave it at that. Touch wood, I shall talk to you next week.